You ever have one of those moments that splits your life clean in half? For me, it was a Tuesday. Cloudy sky, just the kind that makes you want to skip work and drink coffee in a hoodie. I was already halfway into grading essays for my 10th grade English class, red pen in hand, when the doorbell rang. One of those sharp, deliberate chimes that tells you it's not Amazon. It's a moment. I opened the door, expecting maybe a neighbor, maybe a kid selling fundraising chocolate. Instead, I got Eli. Tall, lean, and standing like someone who hadn't quite decided whether to run or stay. He looked about 18. Nervous eyes, but something familiar in the jawline. "Mr. Keller," he said, voice cracking like a teenage saxophone solo. "That's me," I replied. He stuck his hand out. "My name is Eli Brenner. I'm your son." Boom. Just like that. Now listen, I've been married for 20 years. To Monica. She's the kind of woman who color codes the spice rack and irons her napkins. Predictable, yes, but we had a rhythm. Until this stranger called me dad on my own porch. I didn't say anything for a moment. Just tightened my grip on the doorframe while my brain played catch up. Then the memory slid in like an old cassette tape clicking into place. Jessica Brenner. College. 3 weeks of questionable decisions and stolen hours. We'd ended it when summer hit. No drama. No calls. Certainly no baby announcements. Jessica never told me. I said. She tried, Eli replied. But you transferred schools. She raised me alone. Behind me, I heard Monica's voice. Adam, who's at the door? Now Monica doesn't do chaos. She does control. She walked up beside me, eyes flicking from Eli to me to the red pen still in my hand. Then to the photo Eli produced, me and Jessica, arm around her, summer of 2007. Right before I switched campuses and apparently lives. Monica dropped the dish towel she was holding. It hit the floor with the kind of quiet that screams. "You have a son?" she hissed. "A grown son. If it's even true," I said, grasping at anything. We weren't married yet when I knew Jessica. I didn't know about this. Eli didn't argue, just handed her a folded birth certificate that listed father, unknown. "But I have this," he said softly, pulling out the photograph. "She kept it all these years." Monica didn't cry. No, Monica doesn't do waterworks. She sharpens instead. Her face went granite. She looked at Eli like he was a Yelp reviewer that left a 1-star rating on her life. "You need to leave," she said flatly. "Now." I put a hand up. "Hold on. Eli, where are you staying?" "Holiday Inn Express. Room 214. I'll call you tomorrow," I said, my voice wooden. "I need time." And with that, I closed the door. Monica exploded the second the latch clicked. 20 years. You cheat on me with some college fling, and now the product of that mistake shows up on our porch. I ran my hand through my hair. I didn't cheat. We weren't even dating when Jessica and I. Oh, don't insult me. You conveniently forgot to mention her for the last 2 decades. I didn't have a comeback. Not one that would land. But here's the thing. Monica was furious. Understandable. But she wasn't heartbroken. And that's when the first little itch crept into the back of my mind. The one that says, this isn't the earthquake. This is just the tremor before it. Because Monica wasn't mad that I had a past. She was mad that mine walked through the front door. It was the first moment I realized. Maybe she had something to hide too. The morning after Eli showed up, Monica was already dressed before the sun came up. Not coffee in hand dressed. I'm talking purse zipped, keys in hand, scarf tied like a noose dressed. And I couldn't help but notice. She was wearing that red scarf. The one I hadn't seen in months. "Early meeting?" I asked, casually sipping my coffee. She didn't look up. "Work's chaotic. I'm covering for Lindsay again." "Right. Lindsay. The woman who called out sick every week like it was a part-time job." She grabbed her bag and walked to the door, pausing just long enough to glance back. "You gonna call your son today?" The emphasis she put on the word son could have sliced drywall. I nodded, but I was watching her hands. They were steady. Too steady for someone allegedly blindsided by a secret child. "Monica," I said before she could leave. "You believe me, right? That I didn't know?" She hesitated. 1 second too long. "It doesn't matter, Adam. You still lied. Even if by omission." And then she was gone. Now, here's the funny thing about trust. It's like duct tape. Stick it once, and it holds forever. Rip it off, and it never sticks the same again. I called Eli. We met for lunch at a low-key diner. The kind where the waitresses call you Han, and the ketchup bottles are always sticky. He was nervous. I wasn't. I've been teaching hormonal teenagers for 2 decades. I've seen every emotion known to man, often delivered through TikTok dance. You hungry? I asked. He nodded. We didn't talk about feelings. We talked about baseball, sci-fi movies, his mom, how she used to call me the sweet idiot. Fair. Then he dropped it. She always said she left you a letter. After you transferred. I blinked. A letter? Yeah. Mailed it to your dorm. Said she never heard back. Dorm. I hadn't lived in a dorm my second year. I'd gotten an off-campus apartment with 2 guys who thought deodorant was a myth. Still have it? I asked. He pulled out a phone. A picture of a handwritten letter. My name at the top. Jessica's handwriting. Neat, loopy, unhurried. Adam, I'm pregnant. It went on. She hadn't asked for anything. Just thought I had the right to know. My hands tightened around the coffee mug. And then I remembered something. A red envelope. One Monica found in a box of my college stuff when we first moved in together. She read it and laughed it off like it was a college prank. That's from some girl, right? She'd said, tossing it into the trash. Monica had known. She'd read that letter. Never told me. And that changed everything. That night, I waited for her in the kitchen. Candle lit. Her favorite wine open. Chicken roasting. She walked in and froze. What's this? Dinner, I said. And a question. I held up the photo of the letter. Her face didn't change, but her lips thinned. Just slightly. You remember this? I asked. She sat down slowly. You're digging through 20 years of dust, Adam. No, I said. I'm uncovering what was buried alive. She didn't blink. So now I'm the villain. I leaned forward. You read the letter. You knew. And you hid it from me. She poured herself wine. Yes, I knew. Simple. Cold. Why? She swirled the wine in her glass. Because you loved her. That answer hit like a soft bullet. Quiet, but fatal. She was a footnote, I said. You were the book. And still, she said softly, you'd have gone looking for her. It wasn't jealousy. It was fear. Monica had decided my life for me before I could do it myself. And if that wasn't betrayal, I didn't know what was. So there I was, sipping lukewarm coffee the next morning, staring at Monica's favorite orchid wilting by the kitchen window like it knew something was off too. After what she confessed the night before, that she knew about Jessica's letter and tossed it, I couldn't sleep. Couldn't think straight either. But here's the thing about me. When something doesn't add up, I don't yell. I investigate. So I started digging. Now, Monica is not the kind of woman who leaves evidence. She clears her browser history like it's a religion. She shreds junk mail. She logs out of apps. But she forgot one thing. Her shared Google Calendar. It started when I opened her laptop to email myself a file. Muscle memory kicked in, and there it was. Her calendar still synced to our family Gmail. We always used it to coordinate who was picking up dry cleaning or which weekends we were supposed to see her parents, which I now considered punishment in retrospect. But something stood out. Tuesday, 6:30 p.m., Lindsay's art show. Except, Lindsay doesn't paint. Lindsay once called Monet the French soup guy. I clicked into the event. Location, the Marlowe Hotel, room 908. Not a gallery. A hotel room. Booked under the name C. Hartman. I didn't recognize the name, but my gut sure did. Now, I'm not proud of what I did next. But I emailed myself the whole calendar. Then I did what any man with a suspicious wife and a slight caffeine dependency does at 1 a.m. I cross-checked the appointments with our credit card bill. Room service. Uber receipts. Charges to a spa 2 blocks from the Marlowe. She'd been making Lindsay excuses for at least 6 months. I didn't say anything at breakfast. I buttered her toast. Asked about her yoga class. Watched her eyes shift when I mentioned the Marlowe Hotel. Oh, it's a nice place, I said casually. Didn't you go to a fundraiser there once? She blinked, half a second too long. Yeah, I think. Lindsay's company hosted something. What? No reason, I smiled. Just curious. Because I already knew the answer. The next move was chess. I called Eli and asked if he'd mind helping me test something. I didn't tell him the plan, just said to come by on Thursday, same time Monica said she was working late. I also dropped a tracker in her purse that morning. It was the size of a thumbtack, something I used to stick on school AV equipment back when we kept losing projector remotes. 6:30 rolled around. Monica kissed me on the cheek. Late night at the office. Don't wait up. I smiled, warm as summer. Of course. Say hi to Lindsay. 10 minutes later, the tracker pinged a dot at the Marlowe. Room 908. Eli showed up right on time. He didn't say much, just looked confused. I'm going to tell you something, I said, and I need you to keep a straight face. Okay. I handed him a bag of groceries. You're going to pretend you're here for dinner. We'll cook, laugh, leave the porch light on, music playing. But inside, I turned the laptop toward him, our living room camera feed. I had installed it 2 years ago after someone stole a package. I never took it down. Tonight, it had a new job. Inside, I'm going to pack a suitcase. Eli frowned. You're leaving? No, I said with a grin. She is. By 10 p.m., Monica came home. We were sitting on the couch, half watching a baseball game, the air thick with unsaid truths. She stepped inside, heels clicking across the hardwood like applause at her own performance. Oh, she said, spotting Eli. Didn't know we had guests. Surprise dinner, I said smoothly. You look refreshed. She smiled, lips tight. Long day. Yeah, I said. 908 minutes. Give or take. That's when her face froze. Just a flicker. But enough. Eli glanced between us. Should I go? Not yet, I said. I still on Monica. We're just getting to the part where honesty finally enters the house. You'd be amazed what people forget they've given you when they think you're not a threat. Take, for instance, a spare key. Tiny, unassuming, hidden inside a ceramic frog on Monica's sister's porch. She gave it to me years ago, just in case her sister needed help watering plants or letting the plumber in. Well, turns out Monica was the one using it, for very different plumbing. I didn't use it right away. I waited. I watched. I made notes. Because if you're going to confront someone who's lied so comfortably for so long, you don't go in with questions. You go in with answers. It started small. A receipt in Monica's coat pocket for dinner at a place we'd never been, but I had definitely mentioned wanting to try. A receipt from last Friday, which, coincidentally, was the same night she came home late, mumbling something about emergency payroll issues. Payroll, apparently, now came with truffle risotto. I didn't confront her. I let her think I was asleep when she crawled into bed. Let her believe I still bought the lie. But the next morning, I got up early, drove to her sister's place while the neighborhood was still wrapped in silence and sprinklers. Used the spare key and slipped in like smoke. And what did I find? A toothbrush in the upstairs bathroom. Men's cologne in the medicine cabinet. Ocean Reserve by some brand I'd never worn, but one she'd once bought me a sample of years ago and said it smelled like a man who makes decisions. Monica was never careless with emotion, but she was sloppy with logistics. Because right there, in the bottom of the kitchen trash, folded neatly, like a secret napkin, I found the final clue. A printed itinerary. Christopher Hartman, weekend stay, Marlowe Hotel, room 908. That name again. See, Hartman. The man from her calendar. The ghost in her text messages. The initials on the spa receipt. And now, apparently, the new owner of my wife's free time. I took a picture of the itinerary. Took nothing else. Locked the door behind me. And then I made a plan. That night, I waited for her in the kitchen again. Just like the chicken and wine trap 2 nights before. Except this time, no food. Just one envelope on the table, sealed, with her name written in my handwriting. The same pen I use for grading essays. Sharp. Permanent. When she walked in, I didn't say a word. Just gestured to the envelope. What's this? She asked cautiously. A pop quiz. She opened it. Inside, 2 photos. One of the itinerary. One of the Marlowe Hotel sign at night, time-stamped with the GPS ping. She stared at them for a long moment. Didn't flinch. Just set them down like I'd handed her a parking ticket. I suppose this is where I beg. No, I said, arms folded. This is where you explain. Monica looked at me like I'd asked her to solve a math problem she hadn't studied for. She exhaled. Then came the shrug. I got bored, she said. Flat. Unapologetic. Like she was explaining why she didn't finish a book. You know what your problem is, Adam? You're always 10 steps behind. That made me laugh. Really laugh. Oh, Monica, I said, chuckling. No, I've been 20 steps ahead. I just slowed down to see how far you'd go. She narrowed her eyes. What does that mean? I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. It means, I said, I know about Christopher. I know about the spa visits, the hotel nights, the fake meetings, the cash withdrawals. I know you've been slipping off for months, and you got comfortable because I let you. She blinked. Her mask slipped, just for a second. You let me. Of course, I said. Because I wanted to see how much rope you'd use before you tied the noose yourself. Her eyes flared. So this was a test. No, I said. It was a case study. Over the next 10 minutes, I laid it all out. The tracker, the calendar, the receipts, the messages, the backup copies I'd already sent to my lawyer. I don't want revenge, Monica, I said calmly. I want freedom. And I've built a paper trail so clean, even your mother would testify against you. You wouldn't, she said, but her voice had dropped half a key. I already have. She stood up fast, chair scraping across the hardwood. You don't get to take the moral high ground. You had a son you never told me about. And you hid the letter that would have told me. I said, you made the decision for me, just like you made this one. Silence fell over the kitchen like ash. And then I smiled. Do you remember Harold from HR? I asked. Her brow furrowed. What does he have to do with? Harold is Christopher Hartman's uncle, I said, enjoying every syllable. And Harold likes me. A lot. Especially after I helped him draft that discrimination complaint last year. He owed me one. Monica's face turned pale. I had him pull the visitor log from last week. Guess who signed in under her real name? I let that hang. She didn't deny it. She didn't scream. She sat back down. What do you want? She asked finally. Cold. Defeated. Professional. I slid another paper across the table. This one folded once. A simple page. I want you to take this, I said. Sign it. Quietly. Cleanly. No alimony. No dragging me through court. She picked it up and read the top. Mutual dissolution agreement, voluntary. Monica closed her eyes. You always were more calculating than I gave you credit for. No, I said, standing up. I just stopped playing your game and started designing my own. The day Monica signed the papers, she didn't cry. She didn't plead. She didn't even blink. She just picked up my black Mont Blanc pen, the one she gave me for our 5th anniversary, and scribbled her name like she was authorizing a shipment. And in a way, I guess she was. Shipping out of this marriage. One-way delivery. No returns. After she signed, she pushed the paper back toward me. There. Now what? You gonna kick me out tonight? Change the locks? Parade Eli through the house like some victory lap? Nope, I said, folding the document neatly into the envelope. You're free to stay until the end of the month. She blinked, suspicious. Why? Because I want this to be clean, Monica. Controlled. Like everything you pretended to want. She stood, heels clicking away toward the stairs. You always did love the illusion of dignity, she said. No, I muttered, watching her go. I just never liked screaming for nothing. That night, when the house finally settled and Monica retreated into her Instagram-filtered version of solitude, I went to the back of the closet. The one behind my suits, next to the old luggage we hadn't used since Cabo. You wouldn't even notice the safe unless you were looking for it. Which Monica hadn't. Because that's the thing about people like her. They only look for secrets in your life. Never think to check their own reflection. I crouched down, punched in the code. 0312, my father's birthday. The man Monica always said was too blue-collar to give you real wisdom. The safe clicked open. Now, I didn't keep stacks of cash or gold bars in there. No, what I kept were moments, quiet pieces of truth that I never dared confront until now. Inside were a jump drive, a small velvet box, a manila envelope labeled House Deed, Original, and a letter addressed to me from my late mother. It had sat in that safe for 4 years. I never opened it. Not because I didn't care, but because I wasn't ready for whatever truths she might have left behind. Mom always had a way of cutting through your ego like a surgeon. No anesthesia, just clarity. I picked up the drive first, plugged it into my laptop, and opened the folder. Years ago, Monica had borrowed my laptop for a client pitch. Said she needed a clean device to run a presentation. She left a cache of temp files behind. I saved them, not because I suspected anything, but because I've been burned by tech issues too many times to not save everything. That folder held dozens of auto-save drafts and screenshots. One was a half-written email titled Exit Plan. Another was a receipt for a wire transfer. $5,000. Sent to an account under Hartman Creative Services. But it was the last file that really got me. A voice memo. I clicked it. Monica's voice. Smooth. Casual. Recorded like a diary entry. I don't even think he'd notice if I vanished. Adam's so caught up in being Mr. Reliable, Mr. Tenure Track, Mr. What's for Dinner? He's too dull to be dangerous. But if he ever does catch on, well, I've already got options. Christopher's looking at properties in Portland. And honestly, I could do better than this ghost of a marriage. She laughed, a short, smug exhale that practically chewed glass. Adam Keller, the man who folds his socks and files his taxes early. The man who still uses bookmarks instead of dog-earing pages. God help me. I married a well-dressed utility drawer. Click. That was enough. I opened the velvet box next. Inside, a key. Silver. Simple. Unmarked. Now, this part will sound cliché, but I had no idea what the key was for. Not a clue. Until I remembered the note. I opened my mother's letter. Her handwriting was strong. Upright. Like her. Adam, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you're finally looking for answers. Good. That means you're ready. That house you live in, I helped you buy it. Not just with money, but with knowledge. I put something aside for you, in case life ever turned bitter. Look under the floorboard. Master bedroom closet. Third plank from the left. The keys for the box underneath. Use it when the world feels wrong. When you're ready to stop living politely. Well then, 10 minutes later, I was prying up a floorboard with a screwdriver and the quiet vengeance of a man who just heard his wife call him a piece of furniture. Underneath, a steel lockbox. The key fit. Inside was a secondary deed to the house, in my name alone. A savings account book, $42,000. A letter from the original property owner, explaining how my mom had bought the place at auction and kept the paperwork separate for legal reasons. And a flash drive labeled Monica, insurance. Apparently, Mom never liked Monica. I thought it was a mother-in-law thing. Turns out it was a survival instinct. I plugged the second flash drive in. It was a backup of all Monica's emails from an old shared computer they used before we moved in together. Nothing scandalous, at first. Then I found one email chain from Monica to a friend. Subject line, why I said yes to Adam. He's the kind of guy you marry for security. Not thrills. Not passion. Just reliability. I figured 5 years max. Then I'd trade up. But he's weirdly loyal. Like a rescue dog that keeps bringing you socks. Ouch. But also thank you. Because now I knew something critical. She never saw me coming. She thought I was predictable. Dull. Folded sock Adam. What she didn't know was that people like me. We don't lash out. We wait. We observe. And when we finally move, it's with precision. I packed everything back into the box. Set it in the trunk of my car. Then I made a final copy of all the files and sent them to 3 places. My lawyer. My sister, who Monica despises. And an anonymous Dropbox account labeled for Christopher. Just in case. Because while Monica thought she had all the leverage, she forgot one thing. I was the man she underestimated. And now? Now I had the safe. There's something magical about watching a liar squirm in public. Especially the polished kind. The ones who rehearse their smiles and tailor their sarcasm. They're great in private. But put them in a room where every polite laugh could be loaded, and suddenly, you see it. The twitch. The flicker. The way their eyes start scanning every wine glass like it might be wired. That was Monica's weakness, performance. She loved being adored in rooms she didn't own. Loved making our friends think we were the power couple. Her word, not mine. So I figured, why not use the stage she loved most? A dinner party. Her birthday, actually. Her 43rd. She'd planned it months in advance. 12 guests, a catered menu, fairy lights in the backyard. I'd been on the fence about going through with it. Divorce pending, trust demolished, my soul halfway packed into a storage unit. But the opportunity was too poetic to resist. So I smiled, nodded, helped her string lights over the patio while she sipped a Chardonnay she said was just to take the edge off. You're awfully helpful for a man who served me divorce papers, she teased. I shrugged. You still like a good party. Why shouldn't I enjoy the final episode? She laughed like I was kidding. The night of the party, I wore the navy suit she once said made me look less like a teacher and more like a man who flies first class. She wore red, of course, the shade she always picked when she wanted to be noticed. She glided from guest to guest with a flute of champagne and that high-wattage laugh she reserved for public consumption. They all came, her colleagues, our neighbors, even her sister, whose porch still hid the spare key. Everyone smiled, toasted, complimented the lamb. Monica soaked it in, and then I tapped my glass. Mind if I say a few words? Monica turned, surprised. The whole table quieted. Even the neighbor's golden retriever fell silent across the fence like he sensed incoming thunder. I smiled. I just wanted to toast the woman of the hour, Monica. Everyone raised their glasses. She's elegant. Ambitious. Always has a plan. For 20 years, she's kept this house running like a small, efficient kingdom. I used to think I was the king, but turns out I was more of the court jester. Didn't even know there was a coup underway. A few chuckles, nervous ones. Monica's smile froze. But let me say this, Monica has a talent. A gift, really. She can balance two worlds better than any person I've ever met. I mean, the amount of energy it must take to organize parties, work full-time, and still make time for someone like Christopher Hartman? Amazing. The silence after that wasn't nervous. It was dead. Monica's glass clinked softly as she set it down. Adam, maybe this isn't. But I wasn't finished. No, no. Let me finish, I said cheerfully, holding up a folder. I even made a scrapbook. Thought we could go through it together. Just a few mementos. Receipts, emails, even a transcript of a voice memo. Don't worry, Monica, I left out the hotel photos. We have parents here. A guest let out an involuntary gasp. Monica's sister looked like she'd been slapped with a baguette. Adam, Monica hissed. What are you doing? Being honest. Finally, I said, and then I turned to the guests. For those of you who didn't know, Monica and I are parting ways. It's been coming for a while. She's had other interests. It happens. But I thought, before we sign off, you all deserved a look at the final chapter. I mean, you've been extras in the background for years. Might as well see the credits roll. Someone dropped a fork. Monica stood up slowly, every inch of her trying to maintain control. You planned this, she whispered. No, I said, sipping from my glass. You scripted this. I just stuck to your plot. Then I picked up my phone. Pressed play. He's the kind of man who folds his socks. That's who I married. Her voice broadcast from my phone speaker like a confession over loudspeaker. She lunged for the phone, but I stepped back. Careful, I said. You wouldn't want to make a scene. Her face, God, it twisted. Not with guilt. Not even regret. Just fury. Fury that I'd flipped the script. I ended the recording. Slipped the phone back into my pocket. Anyway, I said, straightening my jacket. Dessert is tiramisu. And for those who want to stick around, I'm opening a 2005 Bordeaux. Monica picked it out. Said she was saving it for a special occasion. I smiled wide. I think this qualifies. Monica didn't stay. She walked into the house without a word, heels stabbing the floor like punctuation marks, and left through the front door. Slammed it, too, for the record. Some guests excused themselves awkwardly. Others stayed, curious, I guess, or too stunned to leave. I poured wine, passed out slices of tiramisu, answered questions with calm, practiced ease. She didn't see it coming, I told them, because she never imagined I'd stop being predictable. Later that night, after the guests were gone and the fairy lights flickered over the ruins of Monica's carefully constructed world, I sat on the patio alone. Just me, the last glass of Bordeaux, and the cold air. And I laughed. Not bitterly, not sadly, just laughed. Because for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a folded sock man. I felt like someone who remembered who he was before the lies, before the pretending, before the monologue turned duet turned betrayal. The dinner party was never about revenge. It was about closure, delivered publicly, served cold, with tiramisu. I didn't sleep much after the party. Not because I was sad. Sadness had packed its bags and left weeks ago. What I felt now was something stranger, like I was shedding an old skin I didn't even realize I'd been wearing. For 2 decades, I had been Adam Keller, husband, teacher, responsible man with good credit. But when you strip away the husband part and the house full of staged smiles, what's left? I stood in front of the mirror the next morning. Looked older than I remembered. A few new lines. A bit of gray at the temples. But the eyes? They were sharp again. Focused. Awake. And I knew exactly what needed to happen next. The velvet box from the safe had one last surprise. The ring. Not the one I gave Monica when I proposed. This one was a family heirloom. My grandmother's. Meant to be passed down. I hadn't even known Monica knew about it. Turns out she did. She'd quietly swapped it out for a cubic zirconia years ago and sold the original. How did I find out? The pawn shop receipt, tucked inside her desk drawer under miscellaneous tax items. I took the receipt, drove to the place, and asked if they still had it. The guy behind the counter looked surprised. Haven't seen this ticket in years. But lucky you, it never sold. He brought out the ring. Delicate. Vintage. Real. I bought it back on the spot. Not for Monica. For me. Because I made a promise that day. Not to another woman. Not to some fantasy of future love. but to myself, that I would never again mistake loyalty for purpose, that I'd be the kind of man who didn't need a relationship to define him. I slipped the ring back into the box, took it home, and placed it in Eli's hand. "It was my grandmother's," I said. "It's yours now, for your future. One day, when it means something to someone." He looked stunned. "I don't know what to say." "Then don't," I said. "Just live better than we did." Monica tried to hit me with a countersuit a week after the dinner party. Something about emotional distress and public humiliation. I wasn't surprised. What did surprise me was how quickly her case was dismissed. See, my little scrapbook from the dinner? It wasn't just petty theatrics. It was legally sound documentation. My lawyer had been copied on everything. Monica's affair, the money transfers, the hotel stays, even the audio recording she so kindly narrated herself. The judge called it thorough. Monica called it manipulative. I called it checkmate. She stormed out of the courtroom that day like a woman still waiting for a stage cue that never came. And I walked out without looking back. But I did leave her something. An envelope. Sealed. No return address. Inside, a photo of us on our wedding day. And one line, handwritten on the back. "You had me. You lost me. That's not a tragedy. That's a choice." 6 months later, I got a letter. Not from Monica. Not from a lawyer. From Christopher Hartman. Yeah, that Christopher. Typed. Plain envelope. No return address. Just one page. "Adam, you don't know me, but I suspect you know of me. Monica lied to you. She lied to me too. We're not together anymore. Haven't been since shortly after your little dinner party. I'll admit, that was well played. But here's the part she didn't tell you. She's done this before. I'm not the first. I wasn't even the second. I was just the most convenient. And she told me something once, after too much wine and too little conscience. Adam will never leave me. He's too proud to start over." I guess she was wrong. Respectfully. CH. I read it twice. Folded it slowly. And then I laughed. Not because I was happy. Not because I won. But because, for once, someone else was blindsided by her. I slid the letter into the back of a drawer. Filed it under. Confirmation I didn't need, but will gladly take. Now I live in a smaller place. Fewer rooms. Fewer reminders. I teach. I run. I have a morning routine that includes exactly the right amount of coffee and zero lies. Eli visits often. Sometimes we go to Tigers games. Sometimes we just sit and don't say much. And sometimes, I catch myself thinking about the past. But not with regret. Just with clarity. Because Monica was never the storm. She was the weather report that said clear skies. And I was the guy who packed an umbrella anyway.